Welcome back to Women in Leadership. My name is Nikki Csek, and I am very excited and I cannot wait to do this interview with Rachel Mielke of Hilberg and Burke, a Canadian jeweler, Canadian entrepreneur, founder of the luxury jewelry company based in Regina, Saskatchewan. Rachel started in 2007, so very still newer junior, with a vision of creating high quality, timeless pieces while empowering women. So I love the pairing through both design and the company's mission. So the brand is known for its sparkling jewelry. I'm going to say this wrong because I always mess this up, but Swarovski crystals. Was I close?
Yeah, very nice.
Okay. And has gained literally a loyal following and a royal following. So Rachel's journey began when she started making jewelry as a hobby, selling her creations at small markets. Over time, her designs caught the attention of notable figures, including Queen Elizabeth II. And I'm sure you've told lots of reporters and stories about this, but that's amazing. And the company's emphasis on female empowerment and giving back into the community. So you have, I believe, 15 stores in Canada?
We have 15 stores in Canada, plus our digital store as well that services customers all over the world.
All over the world. And I'm recording or coming to you from Kelowna. And right now, Rachel, you are in Regina?
Actually,
You're in Victoria.
I moved to BC through the pandemic, and although our head office is still located in Regina, and several of our teams, including our production team and QC and our distribution center, still all exist there. A lot of us work across the country now, so we're sort of spread coast to coast.
Love it. Love it. So you've built a company that empowers women through beautiful jewelry and philanthropy. What was the personal drive behind starting Hilberg and Burke? And how was that motivation evolved? How has that evolved over time?
Yeah, I think even before I started Hilberg and Burke, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and I saw firsthand how challenging entrepreneurship was. I saw my parents go through bankruptcy. I saw the sleepless nights, the amount of stress. And so although I always envisioned that I would start my own business, I think I went into it eyes wide open about the lifestyle choice that it is when you choose to start your own business. And as a result of that, I knew that running the business and creating like the fulfillment I get out of creativity and design is a big part of why I love doing what I do and why I wanted to start this. But I also knew that there needed to be something a lot bigger than that for me to keep me going, to get me out of bed every morning, to like go day in and day out and deal with the challenges that you inevitably will need to if you want to build and scale a business. So from the outset, to me, it was about like, what can we do with a brand and a business that can be more than just about jewelry? And very early on, we started working with different charitable organizations, and I saw the power of aligning with organizations and the money that could be raised and the impact that could have local level in the community of like buying medical equipment for a local hospital that didn't have something. And it resonated with me, and it gave me a fire to keep growing, keep scaling, and to be able to see what was possible in terms of running a great business, but also really running a business that really cares about social issues and about giving back and about really making our communities a better place. So it was kind of like the more that we grew and the more that we were able to accomplish and do with different organizations, the more I think people heard about our brand, and it kind of was like this sort of one sort of helped the other. You know, the philanthropy really definitely made me passionate about wanting to continue to grow, but it also really helped us get our brand more well known across the country as well.
But Rachel, I wanna ask a little bit more on that if I can. And this is obviously I'm already off track. It's not one of the questions I've written down, but so many businesses will start up and they always are wanting to be philanthropic. They want to give back and they do a lot of what you described, but I don't know that it has the same impact or the spring or the leverage. So something that you did there in that pairing of that why buy the jewelry and associating it to a not-for-profit or a cause, it had to have been done differently because so many before you have done that, yet it I don't know that it gives or gave the growth or the burst that it gave you. So I'll give it to you. You say it was impactful, but I think it was maybe it was in how you said it when you were at the fairs or the organizations or charities that you chose to support.
Well, for us, it was definitely a lot more than just writing checks. We created relationships, long-term relationships with partners and organizations that we've worked with, and we asked ourselves, how can we leverage our brand and our own voice as a brand to be able to do more than just give money? So, for example, with Dress for Success Canada, an organization that
Love.
we've partnered with for the last several years, and one that I'm personally very passionate about, we were like, what more can we do? So we've worked with them on storytelling in our campaigns about featuring them, and really like, kind of doing something beyond just the charitable give, but really giving a platform and a little bit more exposure to our customer base. And, we did collections and pickups in store. We also gift all of the women who go through the program across Canada. So beyond just the donation, it's like what
Mm,
as a brand, as a business, that can really help elevate what you're doing as well. And so with most of our partnerships that we've done and supported, we've really looked to dig deeper under the surface and do more and find a way to tie it into our organization and how we operate as well, so that our staff can get engaged and involved and feel passionate about it as well.
it's clearly genuine and authentic. It's not a tick box on a strategic plan that says write some checks to some not-for-profits. It's exponentially impactful.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say for me personally, it was a big motivator in wanting to start and grow the business. I just knew that it had to be more than just creating beautiful jewelry or making a profit, which is actually pretty easy to do. That's easy. But like doing something bigger with your company and actually making a difference in the community and trying to leave the world better, and not just starting a product for the sake of starting a product or a brand. That's what it had to be about. And I believe that that's what has attracted people to want to work for our company, attracted customers to like find us and fall in love and stay loyal to us. We have such an incredible customer base that they are so loyal to our brand. So I think a little bit it has been a bit of a maybe a secret sauce. But it very much started from a like, I can't do this day in and day out without it being more than just a brand to me.
Amazing. So every entrepreneur faces moments of doubt, I think, especially when things don't maybe go as we envisioned or as we planned. Can you share a time when you faced uh, doubt or uncertainty and how you pushed through that, or how you tapped someone to talk you through it?
Yeah, I would say, like, do you want me to pick one this week or today? It's just the reality of growing your own business. And I think what happens is you start to encounter that the moment you launch a business. And what you realize as you just continue to build your resilience around risk and
Mm,
uncertainty and failure, which I hate the word, failure is so critical to grow a business.
agreed.
Connotation that it's something bad is so doesn't really just do it justice, because you must try a lot and you must fail at a lot of things, and if you're not prepared to do that, then you can't get into business, because it's such an important part. So many businesses, in order to be successful, have pivoted and changed, how they operate the product to get to that like sort of like secret spot where there's like that great product market fit. And in order to do that, you have to try and you have to keep going. You have to listen. So really, I think failure is a gift. You have to be really open to receiving the lessons from it. And if you're willing to do that, you can go like far places.
I agree. It allows you to optimize or fine tune or readjust or even get validation that, yeah, it is getting the reaction you thought it would be or getting. Do more of that. Yeah. Um, Sometimes I think entrepreneurs have a general idea of what they're going to build and they begin to build it and bring it to market, but you are busy doing iteration and after iteration as you have those learnings or those failures. So what was one of the biggest challenges that you found along the way? Was it because your comment that you came from an entrepreneurial family? I'm just trying to imagine having a creative concept or idea of a piece and not being. And I didn't ask if you were a jeweler by trade. What were some of the challenges that you had in the beginning?
Yeah, definitely figuring out the model that worked. And when I was getting started, back in 2005, 2006, that's when I was really like doing it off of my kitchen table. Back then, you built a business with wholesale partnerships. So you would go to stores and you would pitch your product to the stores and they would carry you. And that's how you scaled up. And so as I was really launching my business and making serious investments into it, my belief was that I needed to like go to bigger trade shows, begin going to US trade shows in New York. And very quickly I realized that that was going to be an incredibly challenging way to scale my business. One of the biggest like kind of the challenges I ever hit early in my career was I spent a tremendous amount of money going to a trade show in New York. And that was January 2009, after one of the worst Christmases that retailers had had in decades. So came away from that with a major failure, a lot of spent cash, very little return on investment, and realizing, okay, this is not going to be how I grow my business. And, it was in that moment where I sort of stepped back and said, what is working? And we realized that we had a really loyal following to our brand locally, where I started the company in Regina. And that led us to going, okay, well, how do we give this group of loyal customers more? And we opened our first store a few years later. And that first store was successful very quickly and led to us realizing that we had this knack for connecting with our customers ourselves as a brand, and really let our focus to be wanting to like own our own customer experience fully and continuing to roll out stores over the last 12 years across the country. So it was from that failure that the business today was built.
I love the opening the brick and mortar in Regina, because I think that's that springboard off of the local love that you had. What was the next location? What was the next brick and mortar location that you opened after Regina?
So our focus has really always been to own our own backyards. We actually opened a second store in Regina.
Okay.
That started really well, and then we went to Saskatoon, and then to Edmonton, and then to Calgary. And so it was just really like building it out one city at a time, the next natural location geographically away from us, and really like going into the community, having the brands get integrated and known into the community, and then moving from there.
And I think there's something really important to that. I know as we work with different businesses in our marketing agency, I'm saying really grow those roots deep, grow them so strong that they will be so difficult to move, and then branch out. So I think that's fascinating. Entrepreneurship isn't without its risks. Again, pick a day, pick a moment. What was one of the scariest moments you faced on your journey?
I think kind of back to the one that I just talked about, after coming, like early days after coming back from
From
that
New
trade
York?
show, I had invested a significant amount of capital in that. And I realized that was sort of a moment where I've made a major investment mistake in the business. Should I keep going,
Mm.
or should I just cut my losses and walk away? That was a scary moment, but I would say
Sure.
that was, when I was in my late 20s. It was before I had kids, and I was had a larger like risk tolerance back then. So keeping going was a no-brainer for me. I was, kind of willing to take that chance. But kind of scary early days because I'd realized I'd really made an investment and a choice in something that just wasn't the right one at the time.
Amazing resilience. With all that you've accomplished, what continues to drive you today?
A big part of it is my own internal team at H&B and watching their like career progression. And one of the coolest things, and it might sound weird to some people, is seeing people who have like grown within our brand and then go on to take on an amazing new opportunity. And I always like love to keep people and have them like, stay at H&B as long as possible. But I've over the years seen many people who have like had incredible opportunities within H&B, have taken on a lot of responsibility, and maybe have like grown quickly because we were a strong brand and a small brand, and gone on to do something really cool and amazing. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction. Again, kind of coming back to like it's easy to make money. You can figure out a way to do that fairly easily, but building a great culture, having people have a great experience, that has not been easy, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. But I'm really proud of the culture that we have today and the team that we have. And I get so much enjoyment with working with the people that I work with every day at Hilberg and Burke. We have a phenomenal company and amazing people, and every day I love to get up and work with all of them because they're committed and they're passionate. They love what we do. They love our product and our company's vision, and so it just makes it very enjoyable to be in that culture.
So, Rachel, as you describe that, you come to leadership and culture, and you can see that there's, or I can hear that there's speed bumps or road bumps or hurdles along the way, and you learn and you adjust. Did you have any formal, or did you pursue formal training around leadership and culture?
So my background is actually business administration. That's what I went and got educated on. The jewelry side was all self-taught, and then eventually, we brought in experts into the company. Over the years, I've done a lot of leadership development because, as I mentioned, it was something that I had to learn and grow into over the years, and certainly made a lot of mistakes along the way. So I think that leadership and your own personal growth is like it never ends, and so you have to
Mm-hmm.
like carve out a portion of your time all the time and continue to work on it. And I think that as a result, it's so fulfilling for you too, because you have greater capacity to lead and to teach others as well.
I'm not sure if you can hear it, Rachel. So I think your roofers are back working on your roof. Just so if our listeners hear it, that's what it is. It's intentional. We are not banging on our desks. So when you think of a legacy or your legacy, what is that legacy that you want to live on long past your time?
I hope there's a few things. I hope that people, when they purchase our jewelry, it gives them joy. And we try and design with how can we create pieces that do bring people joy, with that as one of the pillars that we consider. And so, knowing that people feel happy or feel joyful or feel more confident when they put on our product is certainly something that I would want as part of my legacy. But also, on the work that Hilberg and Burke does supporting different organizations, that's incredibly important to me. So, in some of the partnerships that we have like specific things that we're working on together, or goals, or there's like a building being built that we're helping support.
Mm.
So those things are obviously something that matter a lot to me and are really meaningful. We've also set up many scholarships through Hilberg and Burke, some through the high school that I went to, some through the university that I went to, and we're continuing to look as to how we can do that even more. So that's definitely a legacy that, Hilberg and Burke leaves, and I think touches people along the way. And then the third thing is just people's experience within my company, and that's obviously something that is happening right now. But I think about that a lot, after people leave H&B and in the future, how will they remember their time and me as a leader, and how can I ensure that I give them a great experience?
In the journey that you've taken so far, how have you navigated the rise to prominence? How has it changed you? Because even if you talk about the scholarship you have with the school or the university, you're that person from that class that made it. Has that changed you, or do you feel different? Are you treated different?
I definitely don't feel different. And I don't know how it was supposed to change me, but I don't feel like it has. But I think that I'm really glad that I feel very rooted. And I think I had
can
a strong
tell.
rooting growing up and a strong sense of who I was and my values starting the business. And those have never changed. So I would say, yes, maybe around Saskatchewan, people recognize me a little bit more, and sometimes, through the airports in Alberta too. But, I hope that I'm exactly the same person that I was when I started the company and before I started the company.
You seem very approachable and supportive, Rachel. So imagine you're speaking to a 10-year-old girl with a dream. She has a big idea. She's unsure of how to pursue it. What advice would you give her to pursue this career or life passion she may have?
Well, yeah, I happen to have an 11-year-old daughter, so these are conversations that we have all the time. And I think a big reason why I'm here and why I have the confidence in my life to have tried to do something like this and believe that I could is because of my mom's belief in me and just how she raised me. And every night she would tuck me in and she would say, like, I believe one day you're going to do amazing things with your life. And she told me it so often that I believed it. I didn't think anything else would happen with my life other than doing something that I was passionate about, that was exciting. And so I think that's the same thing that I try and instill in my daughter, that anything is possible and it doesn't come without hard work. And you have to make a lot of good choices along the way. But don't ever set a limit on what you can do, because anything is possible if you believe that you can.
What beautiful, beautiful words from your mom, and obviously wonderful that you passed them on. You've built something that touches both personal and professional lives. What are some personal challenges you've faced with in building the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a bit of a struggle to, there is no balance, integrate the rapid growth of H&B with also starting a family and having young children. That's always challenging. Every time I leave them, I feel guilt no matter what. And they're well taken care of when I'm gone, but it just never goes away. And you just have to find kind of peace with that. And also, there's times when I'm able to do really amazing things. Like, took a month off this year to spend it dedicated with my kids and go traveling. So there's the kind of both sides of the coin, but you have to take advantage of it and actually do it. And for a long time I didn't, but as I think grown and navigated different things in my life, one of those things being a cancer journey, I've realized that you may not always have that time, and you just need to not put it off. You need to do it. If you can do it, you need to do it, and make sure that you're it's okay to have sprints where things are really intense working, but then in the moments where they're not, make an intentional effort to kind of find that integration again and make sure that I have the time and the memories with my kids that I want to have.
I think those are such incredible wise words, Rachel, and that I'm hoping, I'm just going to jump ahead. There were some questions that I did want to ask you around your cancer experience. And there were some, the articles that I read, there were some really important things that jumped out at me. And I think they're so critically important to share. And one of them was that your diagnosis forced you to reevaluate your life and make some significant changes. And what would you say to someone going through a similar health scare, but who's unsure on how to move forward and make the necessary changes? And that I really saw that predominantly in that second opinion and challenging and questioning and really advocating for yourself.
Yeah. Gosh, going through a health scare or health diagnosis is such a vulnerable and personal time. I can really only talk to my own experience about that. But you definitely mentioned second opinion. That was, an important part of my journey was just taking a bit of time and ensuring that I was able to consult kind of before starting the treatment plan. And I was pretty fortunate that I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and I happened to be sitting on a fundraising group that raises funds. And the whole premise of this group is to fund healthcare initiatives in Saskatchewan, and most of them are like female health related. So my co-chair in that group was the head of gynecological oncology pathology in the province. So she would have been the one that looked at my slide when it came through. So she
Oh my
was
gosh.
kind of lucky that I happened to be sitting on a committee with her, and I was able to pick up the phone and have her be one of the first people I called to discuss it and get a bit more insight. And that conversation really led me to believe, and with other like healthcare family members that I had, led me to believe that, I could take some time and explore different options, and I had choices. And that's definitely what I learned was you have choice in how you proceed. And it's good to take just like a breath and a moment and think through the options and really do your own research and talking to as many people as you can as you navigate that journey.
And bringing your husband with you to the appointments and taking the notes and just slowing things down.
Yeah. I mean, I found that I couldn't even process it at the beginning, and I couldn't, like, I'd leave the doctor's appointments, couldn't even remember what had been said to me because it was just so overwhelming in the beginning. And so I had to start taking my husband because I couldn't remember what was being said, and he would come. And in time that got easier. But it was good to recognize that I just needed a little bit of support through that. And going through that definitely made me reevaluate a lot of things. One of them being, we were running the business in Regina, but my cancer diagnosis coincided with COVID hitting. And so was navigating that while we were closing our stores and sort of figuring out what that was going to all look like, and realizing that a work from home environment could be like a long-term reality in the future. And so we just decided that we wanted to move closer to family because we didn't have family in Regina anymore. And so we wanted to make sure that we were raising our kids around family members. So we decided to move to Victoria, and that's where I now run the business from. And, a big part of that was of, going through cancer and just realizing that I didn't want to wait to make some of those choices later on in life. I wanted to just do them now.
You said something that I've heard a few times before, and and the times that I have heard them have been from people close to me that are going or did go through cancer. And it's a statement that I little bit struggle to understand. So can you weigh in a bit on it? So you say like your cancer diagnosis can happen for you and not to you. Can you try and explain that a bit, Rachel?
Yeah, when I was first diagnosed, one of the first people I called was my business coach because I had like had a session with him in person the day that I got a phone call saying you've been denied insurance coverage. And I hadn't even got diagnosed yet, but I knew that that was bad and that they knew something that I didn't know yet. So he and I had had the conversation a week before I got diagnosed of like, okay, I know that I'm waiting for these test results. Obviously, it's not good. And what does that look like in terms of like how I'm going to deal with this? And so when I got the results, the news that I did have cancer, I called him, and he said his advice to me was, and it takes a while before you get your prognosis. So you don't really know for the first many weeks. For me, it was a month and a bit because I had to first have surgery before I knew how much it had spread. So you're waiting and you don't really know what your future holds. And you really have to find a place of surrender in that. But he said, I encourage you, I'm so sorry about the noise. He said, I would encourage you to like journal and like face the worst case scenario. And that was not only, it felt like such a horrible thing for him to like propose that I do at that moment of such vulnerability, but also the prospect of thinking about my own mortality was so overwhelming. But as I did go through that exercise over the next couple of weeks and come to a place of surrender, in that I did not have control over the situation and I was going to have to accept what was happening. I started to reframe what I was going through. And that took time for sure. And it wasn't really until after my surgery that I knew that it was early stage cancer, that I wasn't going to have additional treatments after my surgery. And that was sort of the end of my cancer journey, that I was really able to look back and say, okay, this was such a hard and horrible time in my life, but how can I turn the situation around to be something that could impact change? And it's in that moment that I realized, well, I speak to women's groups a lot, and I could, every time I speak to a women's group, talk about getting your PAP because, and if we're
Early.
earlier, even if you are not feeling well, maybe you've had it within the guidelines. Those guidelines don't always catch everything. Sometimes things can go missed. So, and you have to advocate for your health and you have to like really ask a lot of questions. So I take the opportunities now, and try and not let that experience kind of go in vain. I take the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to talk about it, to be really open about it, to share with women what I've been through, and really advocate for women to not only just get your PAP on a regular basis, but really take control of your own health journey.
Absolutely. Switching gears back in the moments of success, like having your jewelry worn by Queen Elizabeth II, how do you stay grounded in your missions and values? Like, can you actually back that up for a minute? However that came to be, that Queen Elizabeth II was going to wear one of your pieces, what was that like?
So it was definitely incredibly surreal. First, the invitation to make the piece, and then going through the process of making it, having it be gifted to her, and really like not really expecting to ever see it ever again, but then seeing her wear it like shortly after and go on to wear it like that we saw over a dozen times was
Oh,
pretty
Rachel.
surreal, and felt like definitely like a once in a million opportunity. But then we were invited to take part in another process to be like chosen to create another piece for her from the government of Canada, and we ended up winning that one as well. So we went on to make a second brooch for her, which she also wore. It was a wild experience and one that I could have never imagined our company or me having the opportunity to go through. But also, I think I look at it with a pretty like balanced perspective because that was a neat thing and that's helped us grow our business. But I get as excited seeing our product on people that I spot in the airport because those women who have supported our brands are the true heroes to us, and they've been the ones that have have allowed us to grow and have opportunities like that. So it was amazing to have that platform to be able to get that exposure and have that incredible moment. And I'm also really excited about just spotting the product on our customers day to day as well.
And it is a piece that signals a common passion or belief or support of women. I think it's a recognizable badge.
The actual brooch itself.
The pieces, any of the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly think about our customers in every single piece we design. And we want to, well, we always think about the feedback that they give us and what they're telling us and try and lead from that perspective first, as opposed to like, this is our grand vision for what we want to do. We want our customers to be our partner in what we bring to life because we know it will be more successful if they are. So we certainly think about who's wearing our product every time we sit down to design new products.
So what's next for you? What is, if you and I, if our paths cross in 2 years or 5 years, what is the story? Where are you?
You know, that's an interesting question. And I would have answered this question really differently, you know, say like 4 or 5 years ago, because if you sort of think about what's coming next, it's sort of like, what's the next milestone? But I've really reframed my journey with entrepreneurship and I'm working really hard and think I've gotten to the point where I love the journey as much and I'm working to love the journey as much as the next milestone. So for me, we're continuing to grow and on that growth roadmap will be new stores. We have really exciting new partnerships that I'm so excited to launch. There's a lot of very cool things happening for H&B in the next year. But what my focus is now is how do I get up and love the work that I do every single day so that it's not so much about like the future and the goal, but I get as much joy out of showing up and
living in the present.
Yeah, just being a part of that, a little bit of that struggle, because that's what it is day to day in entrepreneurship. And how do I love that? And so that's what I'm excited about, actually, because it's actually working when you reframe your relationship with struggle and learning and growth and learn to love it. It can be incredibly enjoyable.
Will we get to meet you in person or see you in Kelowna anytime soon? Will you be joining a Dress for Success event or anything in our neck of the woods?
Often. So yeah, I would love to touch base when I'm in town and give you a tour of the store in Orchard Park.
I would love that.
And yeah, I'm there many times a year. So
wonderful. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your story, your challenges, your opportunities, both personally and professionally. And it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And I thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's been my pleasure, Nikki. So great to meet you.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
You too.